Here we have the solutions for homework 16, and question 1 should be a fairly standard question for you. The first question is, how many terms are there? Well, there are 4 terms. Let's just highlight those. We've got the first term here, then the plus 16, the minus 4x squared, and the minus 7. So 4 terms for the first question. What is the value of the constant? Well, the constant is this term on the end, so it doesn't have any letters with it. Now you must consider the sign in front of the term itself, and that is, well, we get an answer of -7. The coefficient of the x term, the coefficient refers to the number in front of the letter. So we're looking at this term here, and we have a plus 16. Now we don't need to write the plus, so the answer is just 16. Question 2. So solve the following equations. Well, 4x equals 12. The first thing we need to do here is to divide both sides by 4. So I'm going to divide by 4 on the left and divide by 4 on the right. When I do that, I get an answer that x is equal to 3. Now I can check my answer. I can put 3 back into the original equation, and 4 multiplied by 3 is 12. Over b here, we've got 3x plus 2 equals 11. So the first thing I'm going to remove is the plus 2, so I need to eliminate that from the left-hand side. So I'm going to subtract 2. So subtract 2 on the left and subtract 2 on the right. When I do that, I'm going to get that 3x is equal to 9. Now I need to deal with the 3, so I'm dealing with this thing here, and that's 3 multiplied by x, so I need to do the inverse operation. So I need to divide by 3 and divide by 3. When I do that, I'm going to get that x is equal to 3. Now once again, I can take this answer, I can put it back into the original equation here. So I'd have 3 multiplied by 3 is 9, plus the 2 does equal 11. So I know my answer is correct. For question 3, well, we're asked what is 27 as a fraction of 50, and then give the answer as a fraction in its lowest terms. Well, 27 as a fraction of 50, that's easy to write. We just write 27 divided by 50. And then I'm looking for any common factors. In other words, is there a number that will go into 27 and 50? And there's not. So that is the fraction in its lowest terms. Question 4, we have to convert 0.081 to a percentage. Well, I know my hundredths column is this one where the 8 is. So I know that would not only be 8%, but then I've got the 1 after that, so it must be 8.1%. On to question 5. So simplify the following ratio. Well, let's just halve it first of all. So having 8 is 4 and having 12 is 6. We've got even numbers, so we can have them again, and we get 2 to 3. So that's 8 to 12, and we've simplified it down to 2 to 3. In question 6, we know that Bob has won $1,200. He's sharing it between himself and 2 friends, and it's in the ratio 2 to 3 to 5. And how much did each receive? Well, let's take the ratios first of all, and we'll add those together. So 2 plus 3 plus 5, and that gives me a total of 10. In other words, there are 10 parts. We then take the 1,200. We divide that by 10. That will give us 120. So in other words, each part is worth $120. Now Bob, he gets 2 parts. So he gets 2 multiplied by 120. So Bob gets $240. We've got friend 1. So let's just say friend 1. They get 3, so that's that bit. So 3 multiplied by 120, which is $360. And then the second friend, they get 5, so that 5 there. So 5 multiplied by 120, so they get $600. Now what I could do, I could take each of these, so that one, and that one, add them together, and I should get back to 1200, which I do. So the final part of this question is to write out a sentence to say what Bob and each of his friends receive. I'm not going to bother with that. You can do that on your own. On to the next question. We're simplifying some expressions. And the first thing I like to do here is to highlight the common terms. And it's anything to do with these ones here, the A terms. So what I've got is a 2A minus a 2A. Well, they're just going to cancel, so I'll just cross those off. I'm left with the minus 4A minus the 2. Part B, let's highlight again. I've got a G term, another G term, another G term here. Now the one on the end is a G squared, so that is not like the other G terms. So dealing with the G terms, I've got 9G plus the 3G, that's 12G. 12G minus 4G, well that is 8G, minus the 2H, plus 7G squared. On to question 8, so write the following using algebra. So we're taking x and we're multiplying it by 5, so that's 5x. Remember, the number must go in front of the letter, so that's the coefficient. We're then adding 2, so add 2. And then it says to cube the result. Now, when you hear terms like that, that means we need to put this in brackets and we need to cube it. And to cube it means to the power of 3. And that gives the result of y. And we usually put the y in front, so y equals that. On to question 9, and solve the following using a backtracking method. And remember, if the question just says to solve the equation, you can still use backtracking. So here I have an x, and the first thing I'm doing to x is I am multiplying it by 4. So this thing here. So multiply by 4. I am then subtracting 4, so that's that bit there. So subtract 4. And that gives me an answer of 16. And with backtracking, we just need to then work backwards. So start with 16, draw the arrow in the opposite direction. And what is the inverse or opposite of minus 4? It would be plus 4. Draw another arrow. And the inverse of multiplying by 4 is to divide by 4. And that should give us our answer. So we go back to 16. We've got starting with 16 and we are adding 4, which gives 20. And then 20 divided by 4 is 5. So the answer is 5. And you can check that by putting the 5 back into here. So if x is 5, we're then multiplying by 4, which is 20. 20 minus the 4 gives 16. So that's a nice little check you can perform. Looking at question 10, we are solving the following equations. Now looking at the first equation here, I need to get rid of this minus 2. That is the furthest from the x. And to do that, I need to add 2. So I'm adding 2 here, and I'm adding 2 to the right-hand side. So whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other. Now the left-hand side, that plus 2 is just going to cancel with that negative 2. So on the left-hand side, I have 4x minus 2 over 5 is equal to the right-hand side, which is 2x plus 2. Now the next thing I want to get rid of is the 5. That is the furthest away from the x. And to do that, I need to multiply by 5. So multiply by 5 and multiply by 5. When I do that, this multiplication by 5 and this division by 5 will cancel. So on the left-hand side, I have 4x minus 2. On the right-hand side, I multiply everything by 5. So the 2x is multiplied by 5, which is 10x. And the plus 2 is multiplied by 5, so that is plus 10. The next thing I want to eliminate is this -2. And to do that, I need to add 2 to both sides. Let me write that in. So add 2 to that side and add 2 to that side. When I do that, then obviously this +2 will cancel with this negative, leaving me with 4x on the left. On the right, we have 10x plus 12. The 10 and the 2 make 12. Now, when I'm looking at this, I can see that I've got more x's on the right-hand side than the left. So I've got this 10x here and only 4x on the left. Now, what I like to do in these situations is just to flip the whole thing over. You don't have to, but it will help. So 10x plus 12 is equal to 4x. So I've just flipped the whole thing over. I now need to get rid of this plus 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. And that will give me 10x, because that 12 will cancel with that one, equals 4x minus 12. I now want to remove this 4x from the right-hand side. How do I do that? I have to subtract 4x. So subtract 4x from the right-hand side. I must also do that from the left-hand side. So the 10x minus the 4x, well, that is 6x equals, this 4x is going to cancel with this one, just leave me with the -12. Now, the last thing I need to do is to deal with this 6 here, and that's 6 multiplied by x, so I have to do the inverse, the opposite, so that's divide by 6, and over here I'll also be dividing by 6. So the 6's will cancel here, leaving me with x, and on the right hand side I'll have -12 divided by 6. So I'll just write that down, -12 divided by 6. Well, -12 divided by 6, well, 12 divided by 6 is just 2. I've got the negative, so it's -2. Let's have a look at this other question here. Now we've got 3 multiplied by the bracket. So if I look at that 3, I look at that 6, and I look at that 3, they're obviously multiples of 3. And we've got those 3 separate terms there. So what I can do, I can divide everything by 3. So if I divide this first term by 3, the 3's would cancel. The second term, the plus 6, divided by 3 would give me a 2. And on the last term on the right-hand side, when I divide that by 3, obviously that would cancel as well. So what I'm going to get is x minus 2. The 6 divided by the 3 was plus 2 equals 9 minus 2x. Now this -2 and this plus 2, well, they'll just cancel. So I'll have x equals 9 minus 2x. I now need to deal with this -2x. And to do that, I'm going to add 2x to both sides. So plus 2x and plus 2x. Now when I do that, the x plus the 2x is 3x. So 3x is equal to, these cancel, just leaving me with the 9. And the last step here is to divide by 3. So divide by 3, divide by 3, and we get that x is equal to 3. Just scrolling down to the next question. Okay, let's have a look at this one. So Ben is 7 years older than Ken, who is 4 times as old as Len. So if you think about it, we've got Ben, who's the oldest, then we've got Ken, then we've got Len. Now, when you've got a question like this, I always recommend you start with the youngest person or the smallest thing. That way you'll actually avoid having to use subtraction, usually. So what I'll do here is I'll say, let Len's age be, I'll just use x. So Ken is 4 times as old as Len. So Ken's age, that will be 4x. And therefore Ben's age, so Ben's age, well, he's Ken's age plus 7. So he is 4x plus 7. Now I'm told that the sum of their edges is 106. So x plus 4x. So that's Len and Ken. Let's add on Ben's edge. He is 4x plus 7. So that's the sum of their edges. And I know that that is equal to 106. So simplifying this left-hand side, we've got these x terms here. So x plus 4x, that is 9x. So 9x plus 7 is equal to 106. I'll just move this up a little bit. Now, to get rid of this plus 7, I'm going to have to subtract 7 from both sides. So that will give me 9x is equal to 99. And then to eliminate that 9 from the 9x, I'd have to divide both sides by 9, which gives me that x is equal to 11. Well, the x is equal to 11, that refers to Len's edge. So Len is 11 years old. Well, Ken, he would then be 4 multiplied by 11, so 44 years old. And then Ben's edge, he would be 4 times 11, 44, plus 7 is 51. So I'll leave you to finish that question off. You would have to finish with a sentence, just a little bit more calculation there, but you've got the 3 answers to work from. So on to the last question, question 12. We're dealing with some juice. We've got some orange squash. We have to mix it with some water in the ratio 3:8. And for part A, how much squash should be put in a glass that holds 330 milliliters? Well, for part A, the first thing we need to do is find out how many parts we have. So 3 plus the 8 is 11. We then take the 330 mils, so 330 milliliters, and we're going to divide that by 11. That would give us 30 milliliters. So each part is worth 30 milliliters. And what we want to find is how much squash should be put in the glass. Well, squash is the 3. So therefore, the squash is equal to 3 multiplied by the 30 mils. So we've got 3 parts, each of 30 mils, which is 90 milliliters. And then for part B, we've got a large container of juice is to be made up of 1.2 liters of concentrated squash. Each cup can hold 250 milliliters. And how many servings can we get? Okay, let's deal with this question. And what we have got is 1.2 liters. Well, the first thing I notice, I've got 1.2 liters and then 250 milliliters. And you should never mix units. So 1.2 liters is equal to 1200 milliliters. Okay, well, I know that the squash and the water is mixed in the ratio of 3:8. So this is the squash on the left-hand side, and this is the water on the right-hand side. So 3 parts squash and 8 parts water. And I know that the squash that we have got to use is 1200 milliliters. Well, how much water is then needed? Well, to get from 3 to 1200, we are multiplying by 400. So whatever I do to one side, I really should do to the other. So let's multiply that by 400. And 8 multiplied by 400 is 3,200. So I've got 1200 milliliters of squash. I have 3,200 milliliters of water. Well, how much is that in total? So 1200 plus the 3,200 is 4,400. So that's what I've got in total. Now what I need to do is to divide that by 250. So if I take the 4,400, I'm going to divide that by 250. Well, to make it easier, let me just knock off a 0 from here and divide it by 25. So just over here, I'll show you. So I've done 4,400 divided by 250, and I've noticed that I can cancel a 0. Okay, so 25 into 44 goes once. what remainder is that? Well, 25 to 44 goes once, that's 25, and I need another 19. So 19 and 25 make 44. So now what I'm doing is 25 into 190. Well, that is 7. Now there is going to be a remainder, but if you think about it, I'm not really interested in the remainder. I'm just interested in the total number of servings. So in other words, I will get 17 full servings, each of 250 milliliters. And the remainder, I really do not need to calculate, so don't waste your time doing that. Now I should finish with the sentence, and again, I will leave you to do that.